You ever find yourself sitting on an old dock just feeding ducks with your wife, thinking you've finally outrun all the noise and nonsense of life? Then suddenly a woman with a power walk and a clipboard comes barreling down your gravel driveway like she's got a search warrant for your peace of mind. Yeah, that was me and Natasha, my wife, minding our own business at Pine Ridge Lake. Then in struts Crystal Fairmont, queen of the HOA Compliance Committee, with that look in her eyes like she's already measured our sins before even opening her mouth. I swear if you've ever tangled with an HOA Karen, you know the difference between a little neighborly spat and someone who wakes up every morning just itching for a new enemy. Thing is, if you told me 3 weeks after that first dock showdown, Crystal would be in FBI handcuffs with her kingdom crumbling behind her, I'd have laughed you off my property. And if you told me my wife, the so-called weak little housewife Crystal liked to pick on, had actually moved here to hunt people exactly like Crystal, well, I wouldn't have believed it, but here we are. Let me back up a sec. Before the drama, life at the lake was about as close to perfect as you could ask. I'm Troy Davidson, 45, and after 20 years as a park ranger before a busted back sent me packing, I finally got to retire with Natasha in this little cabin. Nothing fancy, but hell, it was ours. Rustic siding dock held together by hope and old nails, wildflowers running riot. Peace and quiet you could taste. Neighbors seemed mostly harmless. There was Doey, who'd been here forever and knew everybody's secrets before they did, and Bob Henderson, king of the retired golf set and #1 complainer about property values. But then there was Crystal, pulled tight bun, 3-figure blazer, matching sneer rolling up from her magazine mansion at the end of the street, always clutching that damn clipboard like a judge's gavel. The first time she showed it was picture perfect out. Natasha was on the dock acting like she was finally letting go of her work burnout, but I realized now she was just watching. Plotting, maybe. Crystal stomped up without a good morning or a smile, just a demand to inspect the property. She fired off violations like a machine gun, our dock 3 inches too long, wood stain too dark. Natasha's wildflowers, a menace to the ecosystem. Even our bird feeders, allegedly summoning wildlife gangs. I tried to explain, tried to stay neighborly, permits, grandfathered rules. Logic. She wasn't hearing it. Instead, she hit us with Mr. Davidson. This look might be charming to you, but we have a certain sophistication to maintain. Then she turned her gaze on Natasha. Your wife seems overwhelmed by all this business. Maybe the adults should talk. And here's where Natasha showed her real game. She just smiled, sweet, agreed to everything, asked for documents, sounded so clueless, even I almost believed it. Crystal, thinking she'd bagged another pushover, handed over a stack of financials and her personal business card, like she was giving away secrets to a club Natasha would never get in. Truth is, Natasha was clocking every move, running numbers in her head, already poking holes in Crystal's story. The next day, a legal bomb dropped in our mailbox. 47 violations, $12,000 in fines, duck feeding dock length, butterfly attracting wildflowers, visual discord from wood stain, even the angle of our chairs. I was ready to pay and move on. But Natasha had been up all night spreading Crystal's documents across the kitchen table, face lit by laptop glow sharper than I'd seen her in years. Sit down, Troy, she said. What she'd uncovered was so wild I thought she was joking payments from the HOA to fake companies under Crystal's dead husband's name. Landscaping fees for work never done. Money, $30,000 here, $89,000 there, vanishing into the pockets of the same woman fining us for feeding ducks. Crystal was slick. She set up a town hall, acting like she was saving the community from dangerous neighbors, us, while her lawyer boyfriend Preston dropped threats about foreclosure and liens like he was reading bedtime stories. Most neighbors sat in silence, not wanting trouble. Bob even stood up to trash us, said our place looked like a backwoods trailer, attracting wildlife hazards for their precious children. It hurt. Yeah, but Natasha had a plan. She kept asking budget questions, sweet innocent, and recording every word on her phone. Crystal and Preston twitched every time she got close to their scam. Then came the twist doughy. The old treasurer quietly handed Natasha a folder of financial records she'd saved just in case. That folder cracked Crystal's empire wide open: years of theft, fake invoices, shell companies. But Crystal wasn't stupid. She upped the ante with cameras pointed at our house, rumors, more fines, and Preston slithering around with threats, and eventually a restraining order for harassment. I wanted to run. Natasha wanted to fight. She called the FBI, laid out the whole operation, and Agent Martinez, all sharp suit and quiet power, got on the case. When Crystal realized the net was closing, she panicked, burning documents in her yard, peddling stories that Natasha was a liar with a shady past. Preston forged evidence to make Natasha look like the real criminal, even planting spyware in our office. But here's the kicker: I caught him on my own camera, the same one Crystal inspired me to install. Digital fingerprints on the files proved he'd faked everything. Once the FBI had proof of evidence tampering, it was game on. Natasha wore a wire to a community cleanup day set up by us, but really a sting operation with feds disguised as bird watchers and joggers scattered around the pavilion. Crystal and Preston, thinking they were cornering Natasha, ended up confessing to everything on tape: embezzlement, witness, intimidation, threats of accidents if we didn't drop the case, even bribery. Bob Henderson finally waking up flipped sides in public, spilling everything Crystal had asked him to do to sabotage us. Preston trying to run in slick shoes, face planted into the grass while agents closed in. Watching Crystal and Preston get cuffed in front of the whole neighborhood, her screaming that she built this community while everyone watched, was something I'll never forget. The air changed. Neighbors who'd avoided us started apologizing. Doey hugged Natasha. Even folks who'd signed petitions against us admitted they'd been played. But the biggest shock: sitting on that same dock later, Natasha came clean. She never burned out at her job. She'd picked Pine Ridge Lake on purpose, tracking Crystal's scam as part of a bigger fraud pattern across the Midwest. All those innocent questions, all those papers collected, they were ammunition for a federal case, not just self-defense. I really did fall in love with this place and with you, she said, but I also needed to make sure Crystal couldn't steal from anyone else. Every sting, every move had been part of her master plan, right down to letting Crystal underestimate her. 1 year on Crystal's doing 15 years in federal prison for fraud, money laundering, and environmental crimes. Preston's got 10 banned from ever practicing law again. Bob Henderson's the new treasurer. Every budget item goes public. The lake's a protected landmark. And Natasha now consults with agencies hunting white-collar crime. And me. I'm back to ranger work, leading tours, teaching neighbors how to spot corruption and stand up for themselves. You want the real kicker. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about being so prepared, so smart, that your enemies destroy themselves while you and the people you love build something better. Justice isn't always fast, but when it hits, it's a thing of beauty. You know what I mean? So, where do you land on all this? Was Crystal a product of a broken system or just a bad apple? Should a community forgive and rebuild, or remember and defend? Drop your thoughts below, because this fight for justice in one form or another is happening everywhere.